Well, good afternoon, and for some west of us, good morning. We have attendees all across Canada joining us today on what I'm sure will be a very interesting and hopefully exciting webinar for members across the country. I'm joined by Tim Bailey of Avid Ratings Canada. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Kevin.
It's great to be here to present the results of the 2017 Homebuyer Preference Survey that we've been doing for the past 3 years in collaboration with the Avid Ratings with great success. And we're definitely looking to grow the survey because the more participants that we get, the better the results for our members, the more information there is for our members, and the more comprehensive our data set for all the good things that we're able to use this information for at the association level. But as you'll see today, tons of great information for participating members, as well as those who choose not to participate but are looking for the information that this survey brings to us. We're going to be inviting questions throughout the webinar, so if you have any, you can just use the chat function and fire in your questions. They'll be delivered to me off screen over here, and I'll be happy to convey those questions to Tim. If I see that there are things that we're going to be covering later on in the presentation, we'll probably hold off on those questions, but don't be shy, do send those in. And we look forward to today's presentation. So Tim, over to you.
Thanks very much, Kevin. It's great to be here as well. And yeah, it's been a wonderful partnership with CHBA conducting this study. As Kevin mentioned, we're in the third year now of the CHBA Homebuyer Preference Study powered by Avid. What we're going to look at today is, again, an overview of the data set, as well as an online tool demonstration at the end. Where this actually started was, analyzing today's buyer. What is the challenge? How do we meet the objectives of today's buyer? And the solution really is, for the most part, through homebuyer research, data-driven decisions for the industry. So this is, again, year 3 of the study. We had wonderful participation in the last year that allowed us to survey almost 22,000 recent new homebuyers across Canada. A 12.7% response rate, which we thought was fabulous. That's almost 3,000 Canadian homeowners that actually took part and took a 189 question survey. So that alone shows how much they care about their homes and about the industry too. Mm-hmm. And for anybody looking to participate, and anybody who's, wow, that's a lot of questions, or people are concerned, we don't want to inundate them with questions, but it just goes to show, that kind of response rate for that number of questions, people are more than happy to do it. And how does that response rate compare to other surveys? Other industry studies, that's a great point, Kevin. Other industry studies, we were anticipating 5 to 7% response rate, and coming in around 13% one year, 12.7% the next year. It's been just fabulous. Mm-hmm. And it does give us the data by province. We had 6 participating provinces last year. We need all of them. I will put that plug in now. We do need all provinces to participate in the study. And so consider that a challenge out to not only all of our members, but all of our executive officers all across the country from local and provincial associations. I think we're going to have to launch a friendly, or maybe not so friendly, competition to get as much participation as we can. Definitely. If we want to get the data at the granular level of provincial data, local data, the home type data, we really do need participation from all those builder types in all those areas. Right now, we can segment the data by location, buyer type, age group, and home type, as well as price. So you can get really granular with this data. And it is, again, a detailed survey. So this is capturing data from nuts to bolts here. It's marketing resources that these folks are using to buy their home, right through to what they're looking for interior features, exterior features, for the mid-rise and high-rise market, what they're looking for those building amenities and community features as well. And then a pretty deep dive as well on the energy efficiency world, and construction methods and materials. So let's get into some of this data today. First thing I pulled up here is the demographic details of these respondents. And this was the first year that the millennials actually bumped out the Gen Xers and some of the other cohorts, essentially. Millennials were 30% of the respondent group this year. Gen Xers tapered off a little bit. That's my generation, so. Yeah. The millennials are moving out of their parents' basements finally. Finally, so that's exactly. We have happy baby boomers and happy Gen Xers. Exactly. And Gen Y. Yeah, so we could even get higher response rates than if they're ecstatic people here. So, and it's important with these millennial home buyers as well. It's 30% of Canada's population. About 8 million people are millennials coming through the channel right now. It's going to make up about 75% of the labor force in the next 10 years. And it is the most culturally diverse generation that we've had in Canada. And that, again, is going to change home buyer preferences and how we market to these folks, things like that as well. The cool thing is that the majority of these millennials do want to own a home. So that kind of dispels the myth that they might just be renters forever. And not all of them want to be in the urban core. They might not all want to be in the downtown of these cities. So it's, again, something that would be interesting to monitor in future studies to see what their preferences really get, how it details out here.
Right, and Tim, CHBA did release our results of a study earlier this year that took some of the results from this, but also showed just exactly what is going on in the marketplace, how we have a big crunch right now and a shortage of family-oriented housing because the millennials are truly starting life now. They're having children, and when we look at escalating house prices on low-rise houses in a lot of our urban centers, it's very much centered around this dispelling of that myth of millennials are going to want to live in a condo for the rest of their lives. Totally. and look to family-oriented housing, either low-rise or family-oriented high-rise, but we know that this is what they're looking for.
I agree, and it's all about household formations, right? So the millennials may have been slightly delayed, came through in the Great Recession essentially, but as they go into household formation mode now, it's gonna change preferences for what we're building as a product. Mm-hmm.
And our numbers show as much as 300,000 units short over the next decade if we don't change our production pattern.
Right. So from a buyer profile perspective as well, what we saw is 41% of respondents would prefer a single detached two-story home for their next house, 24% are looking for a single detached bungalow, and 13% would prefer a semi-detached or a duplex two-story. And why that's important, again, it comes down to sort of product market fit. What we see in the study is, it's interesting that year one of the study gave us baseline data, but as we got into year two and year three, now it becomes almost like a movie. It's not just a snapshot. We get some trends emerging here. And what we're seeing with one of the trends is the desire for a single family home. So when we look at two-story and bungalow combined, it's actually increased from 55.7% of respondents in the first year of this study to 65.5% in this current year of the study. So are we getting the right product to market?
Yeah, and there you go. That's the millennials and family-oriented folks coming online.
Totally. So again, an interesting trend we're going to be watching in next year's study as well. From a buyer profile perspective, 73% of these respondents would prefer a brand new home from a builder, so whether that's custom or production. And I always like having this slide in the presentation because I'm proud of our industry. And our biggest competition isn't necessarily the builder down the road. A lot of times it's the resale market. So to see that these folks that basically closed a home in the past couple of years would only buy new again, or 3/4 of them would only buy new again, it says a lot for what we're doing, I think, as an industry as well.
Yeah. I mean, these people are fresh off just finally getting their deficiencies list closed with the rest, and they're still ready to buy new again.
They're going, right? And that's their choice. So again, great job to the industry, I think, or testimony to the industry here.
Well, and specifically our members.
Especially the members, only the members. We asked them what they'd be most willing to trade off for affordability. We know affordability is definitely a concern across Canada. What we saw in the data set is 23% of them would take a smaller home, less square footage. 20% would move further away. They'd commute a little further to their work or their amenities. 18% would accept unfinished spaces. 17% would accept fewer community features. 8% has a smaller lot, 9% for fewer home features. What was interesting though too is it works up to like 1.2%. It's a small little yellow wedge there at the top that would actually accept lower quality. And 4.6%, the little wedge beside that, is the only group that actually would accept less energy efficiency. So again, something we're kind of keeping an eye on in future studies, but that's the things that they don't want to give up for affordability. And we had sort of a wish list question that we sprinkled into the survey. If they had an extra $10,000 to spend on one thing in your next home, what would you put that towards? And what we saw is 33% of these folks would put it towards interior finishes, 15% would put it into a larger lot, another 15% would add extra finished areas to the home, and then 15% would put it towards energy efficiency, 13% to a larger home.
Yeah, if you could go back for one slide, Tim, I'd just like to add to this, right? So in our previous slide to this, well, we're not willing to scrimp on energy efficiency. It's a must-have, for everybody, pretty much 96%. But at the same time, only 15% of us are actually willing to pay for that.
Gonna put money down, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, the case that we've been making all along is that it's all fine to move on energy efficiency, and it's got to be voluntary, at least for now, because people aren't willing to pay for it yet.
Right.
So we have to figure out the most cost-effective ways, get those prices down, get the R&D done, so that we can truly meet the needs of and wants of Canadians. Our houses are already super energy efficient. We're leading on net zero for those who can afford the investment at this stage, but there's a big difference between what I really want and what I'm actually willing to pay for. Now, 15% is pretty good, but
it's still
not everybody.
It's not 75% yet, so it's something that definitely it's hard to put that into a code if people aren't willing to put it down for money. But when it hits their wallet in their pocketbook,
yeah.
So a little bit of the marketing side, again, we can't cover, it's a massive study and we can't get into everything today, but from sort of the marketing resources that today's home buyers are using when they're researching their next home purchase, what we saw is it's really kind of a mix of physical discovery and online research. So 51% of these folks still want to drive communities, see sales centers, see model homes, and then 32% of them are actually these, the digital consumers are doing a lot of their homework online. So, and again, this is something that'll be interesting to monitor over the coming years of the study. So on that note, from a marketing perspective, how important are model homes in a buyer's final decision-making process? And what we saw in the study this year was it's pretty important. 93% of these respondents do really want to get into the homes, kind of crush the carpet, see the quality that they're going to be buying. But then for the other side of it, more the digital side, how important is the internet as a resource in finding a builder? What we see in the data is that 86% of these respondents do find that important. So again, I call them robo-buyers. They research online, but they buy offline still. We're not quite at the point in home building where they're doing all their design and decor selections online and then kind of adding to cart and clicking on PayPal to purchase. Yeah. But they do a lot of this research online, but they still do the offline buying process. Referrals, this is something that we've been monitoring closely. Referrals important in the decision-making process for these new homes. And what we see is it's still really important. They're important to 76% of these new home buyers. So they do want to get a referral from friends or family. But what's interesting is what we're seeing is this emerging, again, digital consumer. So our online customer review is important to home buyers. And what we see in the data is now it actually is more important than referrals. 87% of these respondents find that these online customer reviews are more important to them than referrals. So it's an interesting stat, again, one worth monitoring. So let's get into some of the overall home design preferences here as well. Again, this is a deep dive survey, so at 189 questions long, we're going to focus on kind of the cream of the crop items here today.
And we have a question.
Oh, we have a question in.
We have a question in. And it's back towards the marketing and advertising side of things, but the question is, do you think print marketing is dead for buyers? And I know that the survey does cover that.
Oh, and that question might even got me beat up doing some presentations at HBAs across Canada in the past. Mm-hmm. I would say that the print component still, it's all about knowing your buyer, and that's really what the study comes down to. So you can get into this research study and you can drill down by buyer type and your market type. Mm-hmm. And if you're in an area of Canada where you're building and they are tactile people that still want to see print ads and have parades of homes that are in the paper, you got to be there. Mm-hmm. If you're in a different market or a different buyer group, that's about where you can drill down into this data and make it very effective.
Mm-hmm. So maybe that's something we come back to
for sure.
In the second part of the webinar. We're actually going to be going in to take a look at the tool that becomes available to people who purchase the report or to the builders who participate, where you can actually not rely on just a PowerPoint or a paper report or the PDF version. You can actually go in and do this drilling yourself to say, okay, I'm thinking of print. What does that mean for me in whatever region of the city I'm in?
For sure. And with print as well, most print outlets, depending on what it is, have a digital component as well. So if you're, the Toronto Star would have the digital component and things like that as well. Mm-hmm. So it does blur the lines a little bit. So, but yeah, that's great. We can pull that into the online tool discussion too. Sure. So for our top 10 list, so overall interior home features, what we're seeing is walk-in closets. We'll talk about that maybe.
Still at the top.
3 years running, walk-in closets keep hitting the top of the pick list here. Energy efficient appliances and high efficiency windows. You'll start to see a theme emerge here that I'll discuss in the next slide. Linen closets, overall energy efficient home, kitchen islands and open concept kitchens, large windows, 2-car garage, and an HRV, ERV air exchange system of some sort. So, again, over all the interior features people had to choose from, these are the ones that resonate the most with today's consumers. And this is national data in the slide deck here. So this is across Canada. So again, I would always have the caveat of know your market and get into the study deeper. But the themes we see emerging, or that we've seen in the top 10 list, one is Canadians desperately seek storage. So whether it's your walk-in closets, your linen closets, your two-car garage, we must have a lot of gear as Canadians because these things make the top 10 list.
Yeah. At some point, it's going to be two-car sized storage facility.
That's my house. We don't use it for a garage. Kitchen is key for sure. The top scoring section of the survey is all kitchen related, which we'll look at in the online tool as well. And that's open concept kitchens, kitchen islands, walk-in pantries scored well as well. And then the big one, energy efficiency. It's essential to these consumers. So we're seeing 4 of the top 10 list items relate to energy efficiency. So it's, again, something we'll delve in a little bit today, and also in the net zero recording of a webinar that we did that's on CHBA's website.
Yep, that's right. And so if you are interested in going into a deeper dive on the energy side of the survey results from 2017, you guys did do that. It's about a 15-minute webinar that's up and available on the net zero portion of our website for those interested if you want to look at it after.
Yeah, you can't jump offline now. Stay with us. So some trend changes in the kitchen that we saw. Whoops, sorry about that. First up, we see that quartz now bumped out granite. So we'll look at a trend line on that too. It's actually ramping up quite quickly. Laminate tops have rated lower and trending downwards as well. And again, that's the nice part with the study now that we're 3 years into it. We can see these trends emerging. And the walk-in pantry is still a really wanted item, but it has been actually trending lower a little bit. So again, each year we try and evolve the survey as well. We take feedback from the participating builders and association members and try and evolve the survey. Maybe it'll be walk-through pantries that we'll be adding next, things like that as well. Trend changes that we see in the master and the ensuite bath. Tubs keep trending lower, soaker tubs less so than the whirlpools. Whirlpools are falling right off the grid. Walk-in showers are hugely popular. So we've done presentations with Kohler and folks like that before, and that's what they've found as well. So the spa-like showers, everybody wants those. Life is busy, but that's your one retreat in the day, is maybe that spa-like shower experience.
Yes.
Double sinks, again, back to probably the busy lifestyle. People want double sinks in their en-suites. And a main floor master suite's trending up slightly as well. So we did see a little bump up in the participation from the boomers in this past study. Main floor master might be getting impacted a little bit by that as well. And interestingly, the second master suite, it's not super high on the list yet, but it's been trending upwards. So it's going to be interesting to see why and how with that as well, because it's possible we might have more than one generation living in some homes nowadays. So having a couple master suites in the home might be causing some of that.
Mm-hmm. And I know that I need a double sink in our ensuite, which we don't have. And it's not for my wife and I, it's because I've got kids bumping me out of the way in the mornings.
Exactly. That mad rush in the morning.
I know I'm not alone with that.
I feel your pain. From an exterior perspective, just again, a quick hit list here of some exterior features and plan design items that we're seeing. Brick exteriors is trending upwards significantly. Vinyl siding, conversely, has been on quite the downward slope lately. Outdoor lifestyle items have been on a real nice upwards trend. So outdoor living area, covered patio, privacy fence is still the highest rated for outdoor living. I guess we do like to stake our claim, have our parcel of land in Canada here. And the single car garage is trending up slightly. So we're going to keep an eye on this one as well. It's still rating quite low. Double garages are essential, it seems, for these consumers, but the single car garage has been trending upwards slightly. So maybe they're getting a little bit more used to some of this drive towards density that they have to choose from.
Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if that's, well, a single garage is better than no garage versus I'd rather have a single than a double.
Right. Some of the energy efficiency trends, and again, we have the net zero recording on the website, but we'll go into just kind of some high level stuff here. Again, 4 of the top 10 list items relate to energy efficiency. So it is resonating with today's consumers. We are seeing LED lighting has been on a steep upward trend as well. And solar power generation, while it's still kind of mid to low in the pick list, it's actually been on an interesting upwards trend that we're keeping an eye on. And interestingly too, certification by a designated program. So we list them out, whether it's Energy Star or Built Green or Net Zero or LEED, but certification by some designated program, it's now a must-have to more than half the pack, 52% of these respondents. 79% have now listed as a must-have or a really want item. So it's, again, something that is important to these consumers to see some sort of a label.
Right, and it speaks to the success that the industry has had with voluntary programming. Way before you think about any code implementation, people are actually looking to this. The market has changed, and here it's a voluntary thing where people can pay for it because they want to invest.
They want to invest in it. Yep, and they're looking for those labels. So I put in one slide here just to show a little bit of the dollars and cents equation for energy efficiency. We asked these consumers how much would you basically spend up front to save $1,200 per year on your utility bill. Utilities tend to be the key driver for energy efficiency investments. So what would they spend for that extra upfront cost on their home? And what we see in the data is 58% of these folks said they'd invest $3,000 to $5,000 up front. We had 18% that said they'd invest $10,000 or more. And there's actually only 8% that said they wouldn't spend a dime. So it's interesting to see that they are willing to maybe put some money into it up front. I'm sure they have been in the industry for a while. They do like to see it built in somehow. They expect it. It's an expectation. But there is some movement here that they might put a few dollars into it.
Mm-hmm. Although they do want, if they're that $1,200, you do the simple math, they're thinking, I'm moving in the next 3 to 5 years, so I only want, I want that paid off.
I want that
before
break
I move.
even. Yeah,
right.
It's got to be break even for them somehow.
Yeah. Which is why we really need energy efficiency to be rewarded at time of sale as well, in terms of price values and valuation, and that labeling that shows the house actually is more energy efficient, so people can expect to get the return on their investment, not just through their own savings, but through resale.
Right. That labeled product is now worth more, and it has sort of like the liters per 100 kilometer designation there. So what's important as the industry as well, not just to know what's what they value, but also what's not valued. We don't want to be spending money putting things into homes that actually aren't valued by these consumers. It's a high stakes game we're playing here with home building. So what we saw is no garage or open parking was at the bottom of the list. Again, laminate countertops are trending downward, and they are at the bottom of the list. Other garage configurations, the 4-car garage scored low, vinyl siding, as I mentioned before, single car garage, different cabinets. So people still like the cherries, the oaks, the maples. Small scale wind power, we asked about alternate power generation systems. So small scale wind power has been scoring a little bit low. And some of these special purpose rooms, so we saw like the hobby room, the games room, some of those things are scoring again at the bottom of the list. That might be in part too that they would concede an extra interior features. We saw that on an earlier slide. So just to increase affordability, they might take a few less interior finishes and features. So that could be some of, peeling out some of these special purpose rooms.
Yeah, and I know over time with this, I think that it's obviously with these studies, people are like, oh, what are the most popular things? But I know you've mentioned to me that builders are happy to see this as well, because they want to know what they can not put in to accommodate for the things that people do want.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that affordability crunch. So if we're adding things to these homes that they're not valuing, but they're valuing things that they really want us to put into the price, and it just stresses out the affordability. And we had ensuite Whirlpool tubs, and last but not least, acrylic countertops. So they do want their quartz and they want their granite. That's what these consumers are looking for.
Now, just to show that these were not pre-planted questions.
Oh, we're getting more.
Here's a question that I don't think we can actually answer. So, because I don't think we do this in the survey, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember seeing it. But the question is, are there any unique interior feature trends for different ethnicities? I don't think we've branched into ethnicity at all in the survey.
Right. Yeah. There could be custom research done beyond this for sure. That's the hard part with the survey. At 189 questions long, and we can make it 300 questions long, but then all of a sudden we're only going to get 100 people responding. So it's that dance of making the survey long enough to capture good data to give us some intel, and making it too long that we stall out responses.
Yeah. But so unfortunately, we don't have that.
We don't have that now, but
at this time, yeah.
So for the mid and high-rise builders, and again, I'll put the little plug in here. If you're building a product that's mid-high-rise and you want data for your marketplace, please get involved in the study. This is an area of the study that definitely could use some participation, but we do have some data for it. Some of the highest rated features that we're seeing in the mid and high-rise market. These folks are looking for 24-hour security, wireless internet, and a health club or a gym. Swimming pools has been on an upward trend as well. Some of the lower stuff that's going lower is the TVs and elevators, access to car sharing, some of those things. And from a community perspective, again, we asked quite a few questions on the community. Community trends and observations, what we're seeing is the highest rated features actually stayed the same from year over year. So from the 2016 study to the 2017 study, Canadians are looking for walking and cycling paths in places that they call home, looking for parks and recreation centers, overall community landscaping. There's some proximity things that maybe are surprising that they rated low. Proximity to golf course, I guess we're not a golfing group anymore. Proximity to airports, we'll drive a little bit before we fly. And proximity to downtown, and we saw that in that earlier slide where they are willing to commute a little bit more. They will drive a distance to increase affordability or improve affordability, so they're willing to be a bit further from the downtown cores.
And we're seeing that in spades in all kinds of data.
For sure. And again, even in the community low-rise data, we're seeing that pools are on this little uptick as well, so something we'll be keeping an eye on. So the big part of this research too, and I'm sure you can comment more about this as well, is really how it hits home, I guess, to be tongue-in-cheek on it. But one is the marketing considerations. So as an industry, how do we engage today's consumers? These digital folks that are online, they're looking at reviews that were never around until the Amazon world took over online. So how do we deal with that type of thing, that bad reviews that might pop up on our companies, things like that? Affordability considerations. We looked at some of the wish lists we're seeing in the data here, and they're looking for brick homes, they're looking for quartz countertops, they want it all. How do we deliver that? What can we pair out of it? How do we make sure we can get a product to market that meets their wishes and still hits matches their pocketbook and their budget? Yeah. And then labor-based considerations as well, which again is a stressor, I think, for our industry. Is if they're looking for brick houses, depending on your market area, do we have masons coming up the channel right now? Do we have framers coming through the pipeline? Things like that. So I think the data helps us hopefully lobby perhaps with government, work with skilled trades and things like that as well.
No, absolutely. And I mean, this has been a big part of our advocacy, that the requirement to really promote careers in the skilled trades, because we know we have shortcomings. We know over the next decade we've got 118,000 trades retiring, and just in residential construction alone, and those need to be backfilled, and we need more kids getting into it. So yeah, this is a definite important consideration.
For sure. And it's nice to have this data to back up the discussions. And then policy considerations, again, that slide that showed that the demand for low-rise single-family housing, that pop and increase from 55.7% to 65.5%, the folks that want to have single detached housing in 1 year of the study. Yeah. So again, with policy considerations, do we have the right product market fit coming on?
And these types of things are the types of things that we are using at the association level to bolster our advocacy. It's done at the national level. It's also obviously done at the provincial and local level. So the greater the participation in every jurisdiction, the better this data set for them going to governments to say, hey, look, we've got the data to support all of this, right?
Yeah, and there's a ton of data, I should add. So we'll see that when we go into the live reporting, that you can mine out a lot of data. So depending on where you're located and what argument you're trying to make, or what position you're backing up, there's data in the system for it here. So again, if you're interested in learning more in this study, about the study, it is available. The 2017 study is available for purchase on the CHBA website at the hyperlink in the slide there. So chba.ca/survey, we'll get that one. It requires participation. So, the more people we get involved in this study, and it's a very economical purchase as well. If you get involved, we'll go into some of that too, some of the discounts that are available for participants. The nice part as well, we're going to jump out of the slide deck here and actually into the on-demand reporting tool next. But not only do you get this 200-page PDF report of national level data, and it's done up with interpretation of the data too. So it's not just pictures, there's narrative as well. But on top of that, you get activated with your own account for Avid Reports, which is this cloud-based software system that we use for, again, mining out the data. And we're going to go jump into that. I won't spend much time on this page. We'll actually go into the live on demand and do a little bit of a test run with some questions and that too that we've received.
Yeah, perfect.
So let me jump out of here, and I'm just going to go online into Avid Reports. So this is the on-demand system now that I've got on screen. So again, it houses all the results for the survey study, and it allows the purchasers of the report or participants in the study now to go in here and again, look at the data that's important to you for your market area, for your buyer type, for the home type you're bringing to market here. So it's a very easy system to use. A couple clicks will get you your information. I've got it stacked up here that you can see. Again, as we saw on the slide, that kitchens did score the highest. So all the kitchen items tended to be at the top of the data here in the Avid Reports program. But we can go in and take a look at some of the stuff in more detail here as well.
And it, it's obviously small on the screen, and it might even look intimidating. How the heck am I going to use this? I mean, it's so powerful that people who have purchased it are really happy with what they're using. And one of the ways they figure that out is you do have an online tutorial, right, on how to use the system.
We do. So we do have a video tutorial, and it is once you're in there and start working with it, we found that the participants that are using it, and they're using it again to make these data-driven decisions, are enjoying it. They're getting in there telling us stuff about the data, which is great to hear as well.
Right, and if one of our folks gets really stuck, they're free to call you.
We're a phone call away.
Right.
Yeah, the Avid team's ready to help, so we're a phone call away. We can share a screen just like this, do a little quick mini webinar for any participants or purchasers and get them up and running with it.
Perfect. Yeah. And I should mention, we talked about participating, and people are thinking, well, that's a lot of questions and that sounds like a lot of work. But for our builder members who do participate, it is almost nothing to participate. You can register today. We've opened up registration already, even though we haven't officially launched the registration recruitment, but because of our webinar today, you can just go online on the website and register. But on top of that, what you're talking about is just a few minutes, because all we really need for you is a list of names and email addresses, and then you're off to the races. I know our past president, Bob Finnegan, when he first participated, he registered and said, okay, I guess I'll pass this on to my executive assistant and maybe she can get this back to me in a few days. And 15 minutes later was the big long list ready to go, and off he sent it to you. So it's really but a few minutes to participate and get all kinds of value with the back end.
It is, and when Bob told that story too, it's exactly what we wanted to hear. We tried to make it so easy for members to get involved, and it really is a bit of contact information, and then send it into CHBA, and it's turnkey. The rest is up to CHBA and Avid to finish up the rest of the project for you. So it's worth the time if you want the data.
Right. Very pertinent question here. Is there a way to incentivize homeowners to get a higher participation rate? We wish there was, but
I wish there was, yes. Market research did get challenged a little bit with some of the legislation that came out with anti-spam and things like that. Avid, we're a member of the Marketing Research and Intelligence Association in Canada. So they've, similar to what HBAs do, they lobby, trying to loosen up those strings on the legislation. But right now, offering an incentive on market research is a real challenge for services. Conversely, though, what's interesting is, so these folks sat down, almost 3,000 homeowners in Canada, and filled out a 189 question survey without incentive. So I think that says, again, a lot to how much they value homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that participation rate is huge. So further to that question, our challenge is not getting homeowners to participate.
Exactly.
It's actually getting our builder, developer members to participate, because as soon as builders, developers participate, a 13% response rate is absolutely great. We get lots of numbers, over 3,000 people participating. That's good nationally, but we really want to build up all of our pockets so that we get all of that good data.
Yeah, so last year we had almost 23,000 people that we surveyed, and that was based on about 80 to 90 builders that participated across Canada. Well, how many builders do we have in the nation?
Yeah,
so if we all of a sudden had 500 builders participate in next year's study, we might be surveying 150,000 Canadians.
Yeah.
So it can only grow, and it can grow exponentially.
Okay, great. Becoming fast and furious now.
We can't keep up.
Great. So I plan on participating this year. Excellent. Where do I go on the platform to see what customers answered for myself, for my company? Right. So yeah, I guess you can see on screen. You saw at the top that we just have regions, but
we do. So if you're a participant in the study, if you're like ABC Builder Incorporated, what we do is you don't even have to buy the report. We love you to buy the report, but we load up your data. So any of your homeowner respondent data, we would load it up here, and at the very top when you log in to Avid Reports, you would see ABC Builder Inc., and that would be the responses from your own homeowners then. And again, you can still use the tool to its full effectiveness to mine out the data that you're looking for. If you could then go on to purchase the full report, then you would actually see ABC Builder Inc. at the top, and you would see then all the provincial data and all the national and all the granular levels get loaded into the same system. So you don't have to go to two different dashboards.
Right.
It's all in the one-stop shop here.
Right. So you can easily, so basically right at the top here, you'd have your builder's company name.
Yep.
And then you can move around.
Just another line item there, so you can select or deselect, include your information.
Yeah.
Which is nice too, because what you can do then in the software is a little aside that you can compare your performance or your homeowner preferences to national benchmarking or provincial benchmarking in the system. So do my homeowners like Granite as much as Ontario-wide homeowners, things like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do in the system.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Because this has always made me laugh from day one, the whole walk-in closet at the top of the list. So here's a question about walk-in closets. So if I'm a builder in it, because we get a lot of people who ask, well, that sounds wonky.
It sounds so wonky.
So if I'm a builder in Edmonton, are walk-in closets important to my prospective home buyers? Is it important across all home types in my market? So there's a good one to test.
That's it. Let's test it. Let's test the software out. So what we can do then is, this is how easy it is to data mine. Again, you get to the point of the walk-in closets here. And again, we see they are top of the interior features list, so it's shocking sometimes. I'd like to have something change on that. But with this data set now, you can just, with one click, I can now go over and look at how walk-in closets look across Canada, for starters. So now I can see they're important to folks in Ontario, super important in Manitoba. But if I want to drill down to my market area, I can deselect all the Canadian data set. Actually can get more granular right down to the metro level data. And now I can say if I'm in Alberta and I'm building in Edmonton, I want to see how important walk-in closets are to Edmonton folks. So now when I scroll down here, you can see the different regions across Edmonton. Overall, Canada average for walk-in closets, there's 91.5 is how they score out. A little less important in Edmonton, but just marginally at 91.3. But here I can take it down even one notch deeper, and I can look at it by the preferred home type. So again, with that next click deep, now I've drilled down to the data for my market area, and I can see by the product type I'm building, how do walk-in closets actually score here? How do they rate them? So if I'm building single family detached 2-story, this gray bar here, it's a 93.2. I pretty much have to have them in, scoring at 93.2. Conversely, at the far side here, if I'm putting up a stacked 3 or 4 level flat product, that type of thing, high-rise condo, mid-rise condo, still important to these consumers, but we have a little bit more leeway. They score them a little bit lower.
But only a little. I mean, it's great having these graphs, they show things so well, but I mean, I look at this and say, wow, okay, so almost everybody, at the high end, but even at your low end, even in mid-rise condos, 4 out of 5 people are saying the walk-in closet is hugely important.
It's important, yeah. And how do you fit that into the square footage of some of these, the suites? So, but again, with the couple, it's 2 clicks. We took it to Edmonton, we took it to the product type, and now you can see how granular you can get with that data.
All right, here's one on energy efficiency. On the top of energy efficient home, is that something that varies depending on the home buyer's profile? So we looked at by house type, I guess. So good question here on by profile. Is there any additional insight on what might motivate a home buyer to choose a more energy efficient home? So profile and motivation.
And we'll start with the first one. So actually the profile. So overall energy efficient home is in the data set here. You can see how high it scores, an 89.6. But again, we can just jump over to the next screen over and data mine deeper into overall energy efficient home here. And again, first stop, you see it broken down by provinces. So which province it's most important to, but then we can drill down even deeper here. So you can look at it by your age group. So when you're looking at your buyer profile, do you want to look at it by a demographic cohort? So is it more important to these millennials versus the Gen Xers? So that could be our first stop here. So now it loads up. And we can see an overall energy efficient home now is most important to those folks in the 51 to 70 year old bracket. A little bit less important for the under 24s. So you can see how you can now break down that data by demographic cohort, or we could go even deeper and we could look at it again by their future buyer profile. So what best describes these buyers essentially here. So again, as we load this up, an overall energy efficient home is most important to these people that are kind of looking for that customer luxury home, maybe a vacation home or a second home. On the far side of the graph, we're seeing the move up or first time buyer. Again, still important though. So it's still an 87.3 for that first time move up person. So they've been at home, they're going to make that next move, but a little less so than some of these people that are maybe moving up the second or third time or looking for that, that vacation property.
So, but yeah, and again, the numbers are so high, so this is hugely important to me. I really don't want to pay for it, and if I do pay for it, it's got to pay back in 3 years. So there's our conundrum.
Right.
But we need to get working on making sure that our energy efficiency upgrades in the future start to come down in price, so that we can meet these wants and desires of Canadians.
Yeah, because the desires are super high. Again, we saw that in the top 10 list, but you can see there's marginal differences across the different buyer types and marginal differences across the demographic cohorts as well. And then for the motivation piece of that question, there's actually a frequency reporting application in the software. So any of those sort of what motivates you, we saw that in the slide deck as well, what motivates somebody to choose an energy efficient home. In the frequency app, I'd pulled this up previously, but you can see the biggest percentage of these, and we saw that in the pie chart in the slide deck as well, but it was almost 61% is lower utility costs.
Sure.
So the key driver is, there's some folks that are looking for protection of the environment and different options there, but the key driver seems to be they want to, again, save the money on their utility costs and keep it in their own wallets.
Right. I like that some people are thinking about increased resale value, but it'd be nice if it was more than 3.5%.
That's again, hopefully a trend we see emerging.
Yes.
Over the future years of the study.
We'll track that one.
That's the key.
Okay, so here's another one. On the topic of online customer reviews, are they only important to the youngest buyers looking for a new home? So back to the marketing side, but profiles.
Customer profiles. So again, I just sort of scroll down here. This is all the marketing questions we ask of these individuals. So when I scroll down the software to the customer review section here, again, we can top over and do a bit more drilling here into the data. And again, so this is online customer reviews, and they're important in the final decision-making process. You can see they're important across the board, across the provinces, less so in Manitoba's data and maybe the Atlantic region data. But what we're seeing here, if we drill down by the age range, now we can take a snapshot and say, okay, well, I'm targeting my product to the millennials. Is it going to matter if I have 2 or 3 bad Google reviews? That type of information. What we're seeing here now by age cohort, they're definitely important to those folks, kind of the Gen Zs. The next one's coming through. So the under 24s, very important to the millennials, the 24 to 35. Pretty important to my group too, the Gen Xers. And again, I don't usually buy much without checking reviews anymore. So 71-year-olds and over, kind of the pre-boom demographic cohort, maybe a little less so there. Yeah. But still, there's a bunch of them that
still 3 out of 5, right?
Yeah, they're still looking.
Awesome that they're going to buy a house.
Yeah, it really is. Right? I like that.
And that they're looking online first. Yeah,
definitely.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just a quick example if I can drill in.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so I've pulled up that earlier question where there was the idea of, do you think print marketing is dead for buyers? So let's take a look at something around the print side of things.
For sure. So you can see again for the different questions we ask. So what's the least important is customer video testimonials, which I think at one point we've all had on our websites. As we get down, let me just find it here. I didn't know there was going to be a test today, Kevin, so I didn't study. So let me find
a test not only of the system but of you to see how fast.
Well, it's only 189 questions. I can get through this. So as we get down to some of the things here, so here's some of the print set ideas here, and you can see in the preferred resources for finding a builder in the section of the marketing survey that we have them in, they do tend to score low. So newspaper, direct mail, phone book directory, magazine. So I'll pull up newspaper, even though it did get me beat up. I think that was in Saskatoon once. There might have been a newspaper person in the audience.
Yep.
And there too, we can kind of take a look at it and see. But I always will use the caveat now, I learned my lesson, is know your market, know your people. If you're in building in Winnipeg and you're targeting a buyer that's print driven, you got to be in print. So this is the nice part with the data. So I'm targeting a buyer type. So again, you can look through different, drill down by age, by their buying profile. So let's pick age for starters.
Yeah, and just in case the print was too small, for all of those print media, the highest score was 50 down to low 40s.
It is. They just didn't make the charts at all. So, and again, I'll have to use the caveat that most print does have a digital component now. So most media outlets that are in print often have a digital component. But you can see print, well, it's almost what we'd expect. This is not pre-rehearsed, this section of the presentation. But, if you're 71 years and older, print's still somewhat important here, the newspaper. Bunch skipped the question here, but again, the 24 to 35-year-olds, under 24-year-olds, probably not relying a whole lot on hard copy print in their decision making and finding a builder.
By the same token, for those who are trying to promote and sell print ads, and for those who are thinking my demographic, or that's a great way for me, I mean, you're still talking, 2 out of 5 are in the 51 to 7-year-old, half of the people are looking at print.
For sure. And this is the nice part with the tools. You can then, I only drill down across Canada by age. We can actually drill down then and again, know your market. So we can go down to the community level and do that same exercise, and I can run down to, let's pick on Saskatchewan since that's where I have the flashbacks from. But you can actually go down to, like, say, Saskatoon, and again, this was by my call to action one more time to participate. Saskatchewan and Alberta had great participation. Ontario's solid, but we can keep growing it and growing it. But if you want this data at your regional level, at your market level, metropolitan area, get involved in the study, because this is the stuff now. So if you're building in Saskatoon, we see similar track, but again, you can data mine into that. Say, is print media important to my buyer type? Across Canada, home building is a local business, essentially. So I'm in Saskatoon, that's what I want to know about. So 2 clicks, I'm into that data.
Well, and very timely. Simple question. Somebody wants to know, so how many people actually did participate in Saskatchewan?
Saskatchewan? Yeah. Let me just jump to the bottom of the chart here. And we had Saskatchewan, we had 152 responses back for 1,231 surveys that we sent out.
Right.
So just some good data for Saskatchewan, and again, we can keep growing from there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of the reason, some sort of medium-sized HBA, so those are good numbers for that region, and I know part of the reason for that was there was some good, healthy, friendly competition between HBAs and Stu and Chris out there in Saskatchewan, trying to see if they could outdo the other, which is, again, I think what we're going to look to do nationally this year. We're going to come up with, at minimum, bragging rights, if not more, to encourage our locals to really get out there and push, because there's so much value. And I think part of the reason, I've spoken to Stu, and part of the reason he pushed it was because he saw how much value there was for his own association and also for the members that were participating.
For sure. And then Chris and Stu, if you're out there, yeah, you took us right to the wire. Your competition was wonderful. It was amazing to see. I get emails like, can we get one more builder in? We've got one more builder in Regina. It's like, okay, let's do it. So yeah, we need that across Canada. That'd be fun.
All right, I think people are starting to take up the challenge already, because here's the question. All right, so somebody has asked us to call out people. I feel bad about this, but this was not planned, but we're here to answer your question.
That's right.
So which provinces didn't participate?
Which provinces didn't? I would say the Atlantic Canada, we had nominal participation. Mm-hmm. And the hard part with smaller markets like that is, you can pick up a couple big production builders in Alberta or in Ontario, and that gives you a lot of homeowners to survey. Mm-hmm. So in some of the smaller markets, secondary and tertiary markets of Canada, we need more builders to participate. So Atlantic Canada was a little bit light. BC was actually light, which is unfortunate. So we'd love to see, if you're tuning in from BC, mm-hmm. please get involved. Mm-hmm. We've got some, Vancouver data, but it gets lean if you get into the Okanagan, things like that. Yeah. And then Manitoba as well is an area we could look at.
Yeah. So perfect. Here's another question that actually I can answer a little bit. Has there been national media press coverage about the survey? And the answer is yes, there has been. I find, though, that where we get even better coverage is at the local level, because this is very much a homes section of the local newspaper where this will tend to come up. So I know we've seen lots. In fact, we have, now that we're releasing this annually, we do have media folks who are actually hounding us when's the survey coming out, because we really liked it. They actually want to get into the report and do their own mining, so that they can look, if they're from Regina or they're from Waterloo, they're looking very specifically to get their angle for their story. So we found it to be very important. And at the national level, we also then pull these results and data into our advocacy and publications and media releases that we do to support our national messaging as well. So it's been so useful.
I've had more than one web meeting with reporters, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Where they want to get into the data and actually carve out the pieces they're looking for an article. And I have it set up with alerts, like Google alerts. And it was in Toronto. We again another plug in Toronto Star last week on the system, or on the reference study. Right. So yeah, you see it come up a fair bit, and it's across Canada. It's made almost all the major market papers.
Right. Just another great way for the local associations to reach in to local media to get coverage and raise awareness of the association locally and members locally.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Got another one coming.
Callers are on the line. Please stand by.
All right, can I go into the report to see how many participated for my city? And I'm guessing this was somebody from Ottawa, because it says, what was Ottawa's participation?
We sure can. So I'll just grab some data here.
And I know, for example, it was picked up by the Ottawa Citizen, and the Ottawa Citizen covers the results of this regularly. Ottawa Citizen, for those of you not familiar, is one of Ottawa's main local newspapers.
Right, yeah, and they've actually run articles. Yeah, they've run several articles almost every year. I get calls from them. Mm-hmm. So in Ottawa, we had, I'm just doing a quick search, about 228 surveys came back. Mm-hmm. So 1,549 deployed. So good data for Ottawa. Ottawa was a solid participant this past year.
Yeah.
Always can do better.
And I'm sure that it's a nice little revolving wheel there, where the better the data and more interest and the more media coverage, the more builders want to participate. That kind of
for sure. Yeah, it does sort of feed the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting close.
So coming to the end.
Okay. Well, I want to pull up a slide.
If you're sitting on a question out there and you want to send it in, now's the time. Otherwise, we'll start our wrap up.
So again, I guess to reiterate, we probably beat the drum a fair bit on this, but to grow the study in 2018, it's so easy to participate. As Bob Finnegan found out, it's really could be 10 to 15 minutes of an in-person's time to fill out this simple spreadsheet and send it back to CHBA. By participating, you receive, as we discussed, your own respondent data for free. So you get something for free right out of the gate, and which gives you great value. But on top of that, you receive the full study for 60% off, and it's such an economical retail price for market research studies to begin with. But if you can get it 60% off of that as a participant, it makes no sense not to participate.
You can't afford not to.
You can't afford not to. And again, as we've talked about today, if you want to see data for Kelowna, if you want to see data for Winnipeg, if you want to be able to really dice and slice data for your market area, it takes builders' participation. So we rely on the builders. We surveyed 2 years of past closings is what we've been doing for the study. So homeowners that have closed a home in the previous 2 years, so everything's fresh in their mind, how they shopped, and what they used for resources, what they liked about their finishes, probably what they do differently in their next home. So all that's pretty fresh in their mind. So 2 years of homeowner information that you send over to chba to get involved in the study in one simple spreadsheet, and you get this type of value. You can still purchase the 2017 report on the chba website at the chba.ca/buyers survey. As well, live today, it's participation. It's recruiting day with this webinar. We're starting to recruit for next year's study. So that is live as well. There's a tab on there, a button on that same page where you can sign up for the 2018 study. And we'll be delivering that data for the Victoria Conference in March.
Right. So if you're interested in data now, don't wait for the 2018. You'll want to take a look at getting the 2017 report and making use of it now, because now you can use it all for setting up for next season, right?
Exactly.
And then you'll want to participate, hopefully, and get your information and your own company's information all set up for next year. And I think in terms of the easy to participate, the other thing is, we get questions like, well, what about the anti-spam laws and castle legislation and all of that? And we know this is 100% compliant. We have no problems with any of that. We looked into that extensively to make sure it would be okay. Also, does it tick my customers off, having me contact them or having somebody contact them on my behalf to find out, answer 189 question survey, and we've never had a single complaint that we're aware of.
No, we're pretty passive with how they want to get involved in it, and we're not calling them at the dinner table either. So it's an electronic message they receive. It's pretty easy for them to opt out if they don't want to be participants in the study, but again, 3,000 people want to get their voice heard on our industry, so I think it's been a really effective study. Yeah, people like to talk about their house, and they do. So I think if you're concerned about any of those issues, don't be. We really haven't had any, and it's been 3 years running now. Right. So another question, speaking of three years running, again, I don't think we can do this, but can you drill down into prior years using the dashboard? We can, so that's a good point. I'm glad that came up. So I did actually pull that up in advance here. So there's 4 applications in the software. So it's basically 4 screens you get used to when you're data mining in the software. And so you can trend, now that we're 3 years into the study, I just randomly pulled up quartz here. But here's what the trend line's done for quartz since year 3 of the study. So you can see year over year, our 2014 study or 2015 study, 15, 16, 17, we deploy the year ahead, so you got to get the dates right. But you can see the trend line for quartz. So that's where you can drill into product by trend. So if you purchase a report, you get the archive data too, which is nice as well. So you're not just buying the 2017 data, you get the baseline data that we collected, the 15 data, the 16, so you can get these trend formations.
Perfect. How about that? I learned something today too.
Well, that's why we're here.
Okay. This is a good question, and we have been thinking about it. Will you be adding renovation clients to get their data?
That would be nice. We certainly can. I mean, it would be a little bit of a different survey the structure, but it has that potential. So it'd be something, again, this was the birth child of the National Marketing Committee of chba, this whole study, and it's something we should probably bring up in the fall meetings, because it's something we could create that survey template. So as long as the renovators are keen to participate and get that information in.
Yeah. And that's the trick, because this is all about being able to get responses and that. But we know we'd love to be able to provide this information for our renovator membership.
Market, for sure.
That'd be great. You guys scribbling out another one?
Scribbling out more questions.
All right. So again, just a few seconds left, but it's all available. It's all ready to go. We really encourage you to take a look at this year's report. Still some great information. Make use of the tool. look into registering. Just hop online and you can register. If you want to watch this riveting webinar yet again, or let other people know about it, it will be posted to the website next week, so people can just go to the survey portion of our website. You'll be able to see all of this information, as well as if anybody wants to watch the video, or if you have staff or others you think should take a look, then it'll be available for you next week. I think that covers it off. Have we missed anything? Have we missed anything? I think we're good. Well, Tim, thanks a lot. It's been great working with you over the past few years to get this deployed. We get tons of good feedback from our members and our local associations about how valuable the results are from everybody, and we look forward to many more trend lines.
I know, right? Yeah.
In the future.
No, it's been a great partnership too. We value our relationship with CHBA on that front as well, so it's great to. I'm an industry guy, so it's great to be able to support the industry this way with some great data.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks a lot for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time. If you have further questions, feel free to send them in the future by email. You know where to find us, and if you don't have Tim's email, I know where to find him.
That's right. I'm on shortly.
And we can pass it over. So thanks again. Please look into participating next year. Local associations look forward to taking up the challenge, and we'll see you all very soon. Thanks again.
Thanks very much.